Hello, I'm Nu-Trix, and today we're looking into another soft synth from Cherry Audio. Now, every time Cherry Audio comes out with a software synthesizer or drum machine, I'm just like happy like a little boy because it's just going to be Christmas again. There's always something to go, wow, I never saw that. Or they offer the opportunity to have access to devices that are rare, special, unique, and would cost a fortune to have, and even to maintain in the right condition. This is the case for this one. This is the Chroma synth from Rhodes, but also from Arp. So let's just dive into this right away. Chroma is a almost mythical synthesizer from the early 80s. It's kind of weird in the fact that it comes at a moment in time where analog and digital were meeting. You know, we were seeing analog devices and synthesizers getting polyphony right away, and the fact that it has microchip controlling parts of it and recording the presets, like the Prophets 5, for example, was a huge thing. The Chroma was released before MIDI. It was a 16-voice polyphony synthesizer. It has a massive modulation capacity. There are different ways of doing the signal path, and this is where it really shines. But at the same time, it looked like a synth from the 80s. It looks almost like a digital synthesizer because it uses membranes like the DX7, for example, and especially that you would have to press a button to select that button to say this is the parameter I want to change, and then move a single slider. So you would have like just one data entry slider, a little bit like the DX7 again. In '79, Arp started to do the research and development for this synthesizer, but they went under in '81, and the project almost disappeared with them. But it was bought by Rhodes, who bought the rights to the Chroma synth and also hired some of the employees to finish the project, and was released under Rhodes. But basically, you understand that this was a Arp creation released by Rhodes, and it was produced for about 2 years, from '82 to '84. So it's very rare to get your hands on one because it's rare as a device. They did not make a lot of it. It cost a lot of money, and this software gives you the option of having access to one, a fully functional one. Now, also there was this expander, because you could have like voices on one synthesizer, and the expander would give you even more voices. So in the Chroma, Cherry Chroma, you have the two of them. You have the Chroma and the expander. We'll look into how it works. And the fact that it's a software, they did not limit it to the, I would say, the UI that is a little bit difficult. I mean, press a knob and then slide a slider. It's kind of annoying at the point. So every button that you see on screen has a value. Well, if you click on it and you move up or down, you're changing the value. So every button is its own slider. So this is easier to manage. I'll do a run through of how the synthesis works and what's special about this synthesis of this one, and then we'll listen to some of the sounds. Okay, let's go. If you press on double, you see at the bottom here, you've got expander. You press on double, you have the two of them. You have the expander at the top, and you have the Chroma at the bottom, okay? Click on it again, you go back to single, you just have one. So basically the expander is almost the same as the Chroma synth. I say almost because you'll see there's a little bit difference in the FX section. You have the number of voices, you can transpose it, some utility is basically copying parameters and voices. Where this is different than anything else is in this section here, okay? First of all, you have patch config. If you click here, you can decide it's going to be a single layer. That's what we have here. An oscillator goes into a filter, it goes into the amplifier. Dual layer, whoa, you get two of them. Oh, so it's a two oscillator, but each of them, they have their own filter and their own amplifier. So they're not combined into a single filter. So that's the first thing that is different. You also can click here and have access to all this, or you can click here and have access, same logic. So the other ones are dual layer plus oscillator sync. So they're dual, but they go one. A is syncing B, or ring modulation. So A and B goes into a ring mod, and the ring mod goes into a filter A, and parallel B goes into filter B, and both goes out. So you have a lot of controls here again. Filter FM, you basically have the entire B sends into to be a modulation for the filter. That's why all of these controls now becomes interesting, because everything you have to change the way pitch A works is because it's going to be used as FM for another part of the synth. And that logic is interesting. Parallel filters, so basically you have A and B. B goes into the amplifier, goes into filter B. Parallel plus oscillator sync. Parallel with ring mod. Parallel with filter mod. You have series, so it goes into filter A, then into filter B, filter and amplifier A. Same logic, but with sync, with ring, with FM, and then you get variable filter. So you can assign, I'm guessing, each on each side. You have the same logic, but with sync, and same logic with filter. Just this change is super powerful. There's not a button to activate ring per se. There's not a button to say, I want to activate sync. You're basically doing it by changing the configuration of the two layers. So let's go back to, let's say, this one here. A or B goes with the logic that are you using two oscillators? The synthesis is all in here. This is actually pretty powerful. You get pitch A, so you understand it's going to be pitch B. So this is everything related to the pitch. So the range, the fine tune, the mod select, how it's going to modify it, the depth of the mod, the first mod, second mod, depth of it, third mod. So you get three different modulation that can affect the pitch. So really powerful wave shape of the oscillator number A. So you click and you've got a couple of choices, not a huge amount of them. Saw, pulse, pink, and white noise. You got the width of the pulse, mod select. There's a lot of different selection of modulation. So keyboard glide, sweep, which is another part of the synth, envelope, keyboard glide, keyboard B, a sweep B. So modulation wheel, pitch bend, control 1, controller 2, velocity, threshold, aftertouch, mono and poly, and threshold of aftertouch. So there's some weird stuff here, or unique stuff, I would say. Then you get a filter A, and you have the volume A. So basically, this is the sound signal. So the oscillator, the filter, and the volume. Then you've got what's going to move them. You've got an envelope. You have an envelope A and envelope B. Both of them, they're basically attack, decay, and release. Attack modulation, aftertouch, how is it going to be affected by it. Decay, the amount of the decay mod. So you can actually change the length of the decay reacting to, let's say, velocity. As you press harder, it's going to be shorter, and if you press softer, it's going to be longer. That's your choice. And the release. Envelope B, there's a delay before it starts moving, so you get that. And the amp touch is basically how the aftertouch is going to affect, the envelope. When you get into volume, basically you have different sources of modulation. Modulation 1, 2, and 3, and the sources, envelope, and other controls. Okay, same logic with the filter, type of filter, low pass, high pass, the cutoff, the resonance, the selection of what's going to control it. Sweep is basically kind of an LFO, You see there's sweep as is it a single free running? Is it key synced? Is it independent key synced? Is it asynchronous free running? Is it synced to tempo of the host of the software, the rate? So it's basically an LFO. The rate mod, something else could control the rate of the sweep, the wave of the sweep. So it's an LFO. And the amplitude modulation, the amplitude of that movement. Glide, the rate of the glide, and what type of portamento, glissando. And there's also aux pedal enable glides. When you press on the pedal, you can decide where it's going to change. But after that, you have sustain pedal. Okay, you want sustain enable, disable. Aux pedal mode. This is interesting and bizarre. Mono, aftertouch global, or the last note, keyboard, algorithm. That's okay. We'll go back to this. aux pedal mode, you can actually have a latch, so a sustain, linked to a pedal, and you could have it linked to also the polyphonic pitch ordered or polyphonic chord buffer. So as you play the keys, you could still be in solo mode, and when you press on the pedal, it activates the polyphonic notes, and then it will sustain the chord that you just played, but you played it as a solo mono instrument, and by pressing the pedal, it becomes a chord, and then you can keep the pedal on, and it stays, and it keeps these notes, and then you do a solo on top. That's kind of weird. I haven't been able to make it work because I'm not a soloist, but it's interesting, and it's just a little bit out there for me. But still, there's a lot of options here. Polyphonic unison, monophonic unison, pitch in poly mode, mono last note triggered, mono last note multi-triggered. So there's different ways to play. So you see the amount of control you have here is wonderful. Then you've got the arpeggiator. Up, down, up, down, up, sequencer, and random. Now, what's interesting is you have to understand that the way the arpeggiator works here is a little bit different. Is you just press a key, it's going to play that key. You press two keys, of course, it's going to play the other one, but you don't have to hold the other one. You just need to press one, and if I press, I just keep one key, and that one key makes it that it stays. If I take it off, it stops. So if I want to change, I need to release everything and press again. And if I keep just one and I press the other one, it's just going to add up. Even if I stop playing them, I just have one playing. So it's a bit different on how it works, but I mean, it makes it interesting because of that. It makes it different. Right now, if you see, it's written A. So we're in the A. So in this one here that we're seeing, if I press on edit B, now I'm editing B. See, it changes to orange. So all of this here is for B. Of course, this is for all of them, and everything else is for B. And if you want to edit both of them, you press on here, and then if you change, I don't know, the range, and you bring it back to 0, if I double tap, can I double tap and then type 0? Okay, 0, enter. You can double tap and do that. It's going to affect the two of them at the same time. And then you have effect. So effect, you have distortion, different type of distortion, fuzz and tube. You got phaser, different type of phasers. Flanger in chorus, just turn on the one you want. You can be synced to tempo. Delay, you have digital tape and ping pong. You have reverb, spring, plate, room, hall, and galactic from Cherry Audio. And you have a NICU. You can, just low, mid, and high, and you get a limiter at the output. You can also decide that this, what you see here, is going to be for the dual layer, meaning if you activate double and you go into effect, this one has the same thing as this one here, but when you activate dual layer, they're separate. If you go into global, both of the expander and the chroma goes into the same effect here. But if you go back to dual, well, this one now has its own separate set. There's one difference between the two is basically this section here. That is the master out, if you want. And this one are combined. Now, if you look at the second one, if you look at the expander, it's basically the same thing. The only difference you will have here is when you start editing your sound. If you edit the sound here, and then you go back here and you want to solo just the expander, you click solo layer. So now you're just going to hear this one here, whereas if you go here and go solo layer, I'm listening to this one. If I activate the two of them, I've got this one that was just, and I have this one that had the arpeggiator. Again, click here, you have access to all the controls, of the same logic. If you go back to C, let's try some presets. There's so much stuff here. This is another thing to understand, is you also have a split mode where you have on the one side this is bad. So the amount of presets is just enormous. There's just a huge, huge, huge bank. And I mean, of course, you can search by words or by family of sounds. And this is kind of even just a factory section. It all depends on what you like. There's a lot of more acoustic instrument being imitated here. That's what people did in the 80s. But I prefer having these electronic. I prefer the electronic. So I have this little song that I'm testing out stuff with. That's it. That's the Chroma from Cherry Audio. Compare what people think sometime about Rhodes. This case, it's not an electric piano. It's an actual analog synth, mostly from Arp. So it's very massive, very rich sounding, analog sounding plug-in of a real classic synth and rare synth. It sounds nice. It's powerful. It has its own interface. It has some quirks that makes it different. Because of it, it's interesting. Because of it, you might not like it. But it sounds really nice if you're looking for an analog, very rich, wide, the sync, the FM, the ring modulation with two at the same time. It's just like having two synth. Great job by Cherry Audio. Keep it up. Stay safe. Make more music. And see you soon. Cheers.